Welcome to NEXTGames Dungeon Series. Now today, we're taking on Spindleclutch II with my Dragonknight on the normal difficulty. Now this is quite an easy dungeon to take on if you're sure to follow the mechanics of the bosses, especially Boss 3. It's also a fast dungeon with wins normally only taking about 15 minutes. Now these same strategies can be used to beat veteran difficulty here as well, with the third boss, Praxin, being the only real challenge to a fairly easy win for that difficulty level. Now I'll be using my Slimecraw, Mad Tinkerer, and Mother's Sorrow gear sets, paired with a Ring of the Pale Order. Let's go ahead and get started on going over the 6 bosses that you will encounter in this dungeon. Now the first is Mad Mortine. Now the first thing you want to deal with is all the ads, so focus on the main boss while dropping as many AoE abilities as you can to cut through those ads and keep your health up. Now on the normal difficulty, you can just focus all your damage on the boss and not worry too much about the incoming abilities that the boss is going to use. But on the veteran difficulty, the 2 abilities used of Flurry and Jump should both be blocked, as they can do pretty severe damage if they aren't blocked and potentially one-shot you, especially early on in the fight with all of those ads out, also dealing a good amount of damage to you. So this is making it even more crucial on that veteran difficulty to deal with those ads quickly and then focus all of your damage on the main boss while being sure to block those 2 abilities of both Flurry and Jump. Now the second boss, Bloodspawn, is next. Now on this difficulty, you mainly just want to focus on damage unless you see him preparing his heavy attack. If that is being ready, you want to immediately block to not only block the damage, but also make sure that you're not knocked back. As normally on this difficulty, you're not really going to be one-shotted by this damage, but if you're knocked back, he's going to run up to you. It's of course going to slow down the fight by a few seconds as you get back up, and because he's had to run to you, you now need to reapply any area of effect abilities because of the new location. So you really just kind of want to block that to make sure that the fight finishes as quickly as possible. Now on the veteran difficulty, you want to be sure to block it because the heavy attack can definitely one-shot you. Now the other 2 abilities that you're going to see during this fight are Flurry, which is just a series of quick attacks, and Slam, where he will slam the ground and cause rocks from above you to fall. Now regardless of the difficulty you're on, you want to just keep getting your damage in, stay still, and keep your health up during both of these abilities, and you should be able to easily cure through them and finish this fight. Now this third boss is Praxin Douare, and he is easily the most challenging of this dungeon. He's also the one that I find takes the most time to defeat. Now if you can get past this one on the veteran difficulty, the rest of the run is fairly simple, but this is the one that I normally will spend many attempts on before I get it just right and the win. Let's go ahead and go through what's involved in the different phases of this fight, and each of these phases is going to progress on a timed basis, so keep in mind that they will not wait for you to finish the previous phase before spawning the next, meaning taking out each phase as quickly as possible is critical to winning this fight. Now first, it's important to know that you can't damage the main boss at the start of this fight, so don't even waste any resources or time trying to do so. After a few seconds into the fight on phase 1, he will summon spiders, a lot of spiders. Now fortunately, they have fairly low health, and you can easily AoE them all down in just a few seconds regardless of difficulty, as long as you're ready for them to appear and have the AoEs going right when they spawn. This brings us to phase 2, where we'll need to kill the Swarm Mother, which is the big spider boss from the first Spindleclutch run. Now this group will take longer to kill than the first, but is still very manageable on either difficulty. Now after a short while, phase 3 will begin, which includes Rabu and Widowmaker from the first Spindleclutch dungeon again. Now you should try to get these 2 close together, and then focus on AoE damage to quickly try and finish both before the 4th phase starts. Try not to use your ultimate during this 3rd phase, as you're going to need it in phase 4. Now when phase 4 starts, the Whisperer will spawn, which is the old end boss from the first Spindleclutch dungeon. Now here's where you'll want to drop your ultimate and finish off the Whisperer as fast as you can, as Praxin will now spawn and start using his abilities on you, which will make the rest of this fight very challenging. Now once the Widowmaker is dead, focus on Praxin, who will be using the following 3 nasty abilities. The first ability is Trident, which will spend out high damage abilities in a conal AoE formation in front of him. Now you can't really avoid this one if you're close and tanking, so just heal yourself through it. Now if you're at a distance, you can avoid the lines on the ground to not get hit with it. Now the next ability is Drain, and he will start using this on you almost immediately after he spawns. This will drain all of your resources to 0 and make doing any meaningful damage very difficult for the rest of this fight. So keep those heavy attacks going and try to keep any form of damage going that you can, and those resources up as much as you can. Doing so is complicated by the third ability that you're going to see, which is the Ring of Death. Now this will put a ring around you that will start moving by itself. You must move with it. If you touch the edges, you're going to almost always immediately die, regardless of the difficulty that you're on. Now it seems the longer that this ring is up, the lower amount of damage that it's going to do to you. So this means that if you're on the normal difficulty, you can sometimes live through hitting one of those walls if you avoided it for several seconds after it's appeared. Now avoiding the sides of this circle is also complicated by the fact that he will lock you into place and root you to the ground, and there are also places around this arena that will actually block you as you're trying to move around, basically obstacles on the ground. So this is going to impede your movement at times, and you need to be ready for these and kind of move around them with the circle. Now it's this mechanic that is so hard to take this one on in the veteran difficulty, as even a single touch of this ring means death and the end of your run. However, if you can focus on getting your damage in with no resources and while being contained to this moving ring, you can claim victory on this third boss, and the rest of your run is fairly simple. This brings us to the fourth boss, Atronach Trio. Now this fight is fairly simple in that all you need to do is avoid the heavy attacks coming at you. There will also be 3 bosses using them at the start of this run, so be ready to block a lot in between usage of your abilities. Now if you can manage to kill all 3 at the same time, the fight will be over very quickly. However, this is challenging to do, especially on that veteran difficulty if you're solo, as they will undoubtedly be at very different hit point levels when you're getting ready to kill that first one. This means that each time one dies, it's going to heal the other 2 to about 75% health. Therefore, I recommend just simply focusing on one of them at a time, being sure to block the incoming heavy attacks until all 3 are dead. Here we are at the 5th boss, Urvan Veleth. Now Urvan will start off with many adds assisting him, so be sure to take them out with AoE quickly, as they can drop Dragonknight standards and then quickly get in a lot of damage due to those. Now after they're dead, focus on the main boss, who will use 2 main attacks. The first is a heavy attack that should be blocked, or it's going to knock you down, similar to what occurred with boss 2. He will also normally block right after this ability is used, and if you do a heavy attack while he's blocking, it's going to set you off balance, and then he will do a devastating follow-up attack. So be sure to not use heavy attacks around the usage of this ability. Now the second ability you're going to see used is a Blood Puddle. Now with this ability, he will turn into a pool of blood on the ground and drain large amounts of health from you while you're inside of it. I recommend staying away from this pool while he's in this form, and if he does happen to catch you in this pool, make sure you block to lessen the amount of damage he's draining, and otherwise this fight's going to be over pretty quickly. This will bring us to the 6th and final boss of this dungeon, which is actually one of the easier final bosses in the game. Now there are 4 main abilities that you're going to see in this one. Group Drain will drain health from all the people on the crosses nearby. Just keep getting in damage while this is occurring, and it's only if the fight goes on for too long that this is going to start posing a problem. Next is a Health Drain ability, which again is very weak. Just keep getting in damage while this is occurring, and you should be able to get right through it without any issues. He also has access to a Teleportation Strike. When he uses this ability, he will jump to another member of the group or to your companion and then back to you. Don't chase after him when he uses this, just stay put and use the second or 2 to recast some of your buffs, and then he will jump back to you and you can continue to get your damage in. Now the final ability that you're going to see used is called Blood Circle. Now this ability is going to put a small pool of blood on the ground under you, and that's going to do moderate damage or severe damage on the veteran difficulty. To avoid it, simply step out of the blood circle. And that's about all you're going to need to know to take this one on. Like I said, it's a pretty easy final boss. I hope you found that walkthrough helpful. Enjoy the rest of the run, and we'll see you next time.